Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. We have been exploring a lot of career options like from product management, front-end developer, tech and non-tech roles. So we are going to discuss about one of the very interesting roles, that is UX researcher, and it's been a very specialized role to even I've been trying to learn about the role, and many people have asked to what is this role about. I had invited Shivangi, who has worked with lot of consumer companies as a user UX researcher. So thanks a lot, Shivangi, for coming here. If you can give a quick introduction about yourself to audience, it would be helpful.
For sure. Thanks for introducing me and inviting me as well here. You already mentioned, I'm Shivangi and I've worked with a lot of consumer products before. I've recently worked with Paytm. Before that, I was at Yulu. And before that, I was at Hureo UX research company, which specializes in doing UX research, but for different organizations, like be it Swiggy, Uber, or Ajio, things like that. Before that, interestingly, I was a lawyer and then I went on to get my master's in law at TISS. However, I got introduced to social sciences research over there. Like my dissertation is entirely social science based. It was a social legal issue that I had to explore and I just fell in love with research. However, the problem with academic research is whatever you do, the insights that you bring about do not fructify in real time, right? Probably whatever I've done so far, it'll probably come into notice of people in next 10 years or 12 years or even later, right? Or never as well. That is also a possibility. Just randomly went on Google and searched where all can I apply my research skills. Can it be in tech industry? Where exactly would it go? And how exactly can I navigate the entire field? That's when I chanced upon UX research, I would say. Like I had no clue before that something like this existed in tech. So I went ahead, I did a course from Coursera. It is offered by Google. It's called UX design certification, professional certification, something like that. I did that to get myself acquainted with design thinking and product life cycle and how does user research come into the entire what do you call it, the function entirely, right? Where does it fit in? What is the role exactly? And then I landed my internship at Hureo, and that has been my journey so far.
Interesting, right? You were a lawyer, then now you are into user research. It's been a very interesting journey. We'll more deep dive into that in the upcoming questions. First, I want to clarify what is this user research, or let's say I've been hearing this word a lot where let's say there are terms like UX designer. So what is user research, or is it called user experience research, user research, or UX research? What is it and what's the common term used to?
Right. So people often use UX research, user experience research, and user research interchangeably. Mostly there is a commonality in them, and like you wouldn't find uh, a company where there is a user researcher and UX researcher as well, unless it is at a very large scale. So you can use it interchangeably. That is not a problem. I'll talk about what this role actually entails as well. Right. So user research is basically like a business has so many stakeholders that helps business decide what things to do next, right? How to move forward from some place. Like it can go to data, it can go to product, it can go to multiple other, like if it is an ops heavy organization, it can go to ops to see what is next in the line. Similarly, business can come to user researcher as well, who will inform the business about the user behavior on the app or about the pain points that they are facing currently, any adoption barriers that are there, or in general, overview of the behavioral patterns of people. Say I want to explore that is the market and I want to build something for this market. Where are the gaps existing? Right. So you would go to a user researcher for that. You would want them to figure out what are the pain points existing, what are the barriers existing, and how to go about the entire thing once you have the problem space. I hope that gives you an idea.
So it's clear user researcher is someone who is like subject matter expert for all information related to a user. And let's say they help other stakeholders in business and
Right.
product. And just a
Methodical
cross question.
study of user behavior, if I have to like put it in a systematic
Yeah.
way, that would be it.
But let's say who are the main stakeholders you would work with?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like I mentioned already, I can a problem statement can either come from the business side, or it can come from product, or it can come from design as well. Like if they just want any evaluations of certain flows that they've built, or they want to test their concepts as well, right? Like they have basic wireframes, or they want to understand where the cards would go. These things also user researcher would only do. So that's basically it: business, product, and design.
Got it. And let's say you were a lawyer, then you came into user research, but generally, let's say, are there any specific qualifications to become a user researcher? Let's say someone is just thinking of their career, there's specific degree or something that they should do so that they can directly go through this path.
So there is no specific pathway as such at the moment that you have to have this degree to enter this field. However, it helps to make you go places, and also it helps you with a break in the career as well. If you come from a background of HCI or design, HCI meaning a human computer interaction, or design, or what do you call it, psychology as well, interestingly. If you come from social, you have to have that interface with what do you call it, human, and like the behavioral patterns. Any way that you can bring that out, you're good to go.
Got
I
it.
hope that answers your question.
That answers. So basically, these questions are curated based on I've been talking to a lot of people who are trying to transition or figuring out their career. So these are the common questions they have. And next, the common confusion in roles is there are a lot of roles within design also, right? There's a UI
Yeah,
designer,
yeah.
there's a UX
Yes.
designer, there's a user researcher. What's the difference between all these three roles in terms of responsibilities and deliverables?
Three roles. What are the three roles that you mentioned? Designer and researcher. What else?
UI designer, UX designer, and user researcher.
About UI and UX, UX is a subset. It is about the entire user experience. It could be front end, it could be back end, it could just be system designing, right? But UI is specific to just the interface, just the front end which people are interacting with. This is the basic difference there. About user researcher, it's an entirely different role altogether. User researchers are not expected to design at all. They're expected to figure out the problems existing in the design, responsible for figuring out the behavioral patterns on that design. For example, if a just giving you a very random example here, you placed a button on the like top right corner of your screen, right? But what is happening is there is a like hyperlink right beneath it. Now user researcher's job would be to understand how are people interacting with these button and hyperlink. Like if people are confusing them, people are not able to understand what is happening here, what do I need to click to proceed further in the journey, these things the user researcher will understand, they will bring to the designers, and then designer will work on it to improve or enhance the user interface there. I hope that gives you a little bit of clarity there.
Got it. That helps. Basically, more visual aspects and positioning, etc., will be taken by UI UX designer, and more on the why behind decisions or validating that will be done by a user researcher. And let's say, what are the let's say skills that a user researcher should have?
Right. Like I mentioned, is like this field is a methodical study of user behavior. There are specific tools that we use, tools in the sense of methods as well as ICT. For methods, I would say, like, I am a qualitative researcher primarily. I am trying to switch into mixed methods, but primarily I'm qualitative as of now. So I might want to apply methods like ethnography or FGD or like user interviews, something like usability testing, concept testings, A/B testings. These things I would do, right? Now, in terms of ICT tools, I might have to have some face time with Jira for getting the data requirements, and also Notion for creating my documents. Also, Figma is very helpful these days because most of the design and product teams, they collaborate over there. Knowing Figma is also a very basic thing that you should have. And there are some tools that we use for the job as well, like Loop Panel, Dovetail. Then there's Miro. Then there's what do you call it? Airtable, user interviews. There are a lot of things that way which you can just Google and know what tools are there. Yeah, that's it. Apart from this, there are some soft skills as well. You have to have empathy for users, right? Like you act as a bridge between the business needs and the user needs, right? You have to understand where business is coming from, what the constraints are, what the limitations are, and you have to map them up to what user actually needs in the field, right? If you are proposing a solution, you should know what both sides of stories are. And you should also have that ability to inculcate that empathy in business as well. What I do for that is I would create small snippets, like I go and say a field interview. and I collected data point. There was something very interesting that they mentioned कि ये फट रहा है, this is something that I don't understand, or this is something that I don't need in the product, right? I will ask why, what is happening. They'll probably try to show me that in the app. Then I'll use that snippet to show to the business owners कि okay, this is what is happening, or to the product owners कि okay, this is what you visualized or envisioned would happen, but this is happening instead. You have to match that somewhere. Having empathy is very important for this.
I think you act as a translation layer where you get the requirements, like you understand the pain points and then translate it to the business, product, and design team.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's also one of the major KRs.
So just another common question, even as product managers or designers who are doing research, the common confusion they have is how many users should I talk to, right? Consider consumer products like Swiggy, etc. They have millions of users. So I cannot go and talk to all of them. And not even 100, right? 100 is also a big number to talk, even if you spend X amount of time for one user, it's a big. Yeah. So how can we arrive at the number?
Yeah, absolutely. It depends on the problem statement that you have at hand. There are multiple types of research that you can do: formative, summative, evaluative, exploratory. Let's say we want to do a usability testing, which is an evaluative study for one of the problem statements, for one of the user flows. Now, there are concepts called data saturation, and there are, if I'm going too technical, just let me know, because I tend to get like what do you call it? I tend to overshare at times. Anyway, like I was mentioning, there are concepts like representative sampling and sampling techniques and data saturation. Build user cohorts. All your users are not the same. You have to have some sort of cohorts built up. Ki, oh, these are my power users according to the RFM analysis. These are my least active users. These are dormant users. Whatever it is, you will have 4 to 5 user cohorts for each problem statement. Now, these user cohorts will do representative sampling. What that means is you will probably, for each user cohort, there is a specific demographic that will come into play. कि this user code के लिए we need to talk to female and male users, or geographic distribution as well comes into factors at times. Considering that, you tend to go with 4 to 5 representative samples of each user cohort, right, till the data saturation is reached. Ideally, the number should be, if there are 4 to 5 user cohorts, then 20 is a good enough sample size for you, 20 to 30 at max. Now, if you want to
Got it.
triangulate this, you can probably go and check your insights in the, say, customer support tickets or the calls that you might have received. These things you can do to triangulate your data, or even send out surveys sometimes to find the statistical significance there. However, when you reach data saturation, it is highly likely that after a certain sample size, you won't be getting any new answers. And usually in qualitative studies, you tend to reach data saturation point by 20 to 30 users for each problem statement. But again, it would differ. Like if I'm doing an exploratory study, trying to understand a whole new problem space where we don't even have a TG fixed yet, or even if we have a TG fixed yet, we don't know how many we can reach, or what is the market share that you can penetrate as of now, then you tend to go with a higher sample size. It totally depends on the problem statement at hand. Sometimes you can even do an evaluative study with 5 to 6 users also. If you are just in the low fidelity to test your concepts, you might choose 5 users out there, 5 power users, or 5, whatever you call it, right? Dormant users. You just go ahead.
Got it. I think the second part is more complex where we don't have anything and we are trying to, let's say, talk to users, then build a product, kind of a 0 to 1.
You go by the book, like you choose, say, 30 samples across the user cohorts, like I talked about, and then you see ki have you reached data saturation, right? Are the patterns emerging, and are you still getting new things to hear on your 30th interview? Then you kind of pivot there and increase your sample size. Or if you say reach data saturation before that only, right? You reached it on 25th user, you stop right there. It's kind of an iterative process also, where you keep evolving with the needs of the project.
It's not like one time we talk to user, it's like we'll talk to user at every stage or whenever at lo-fi, ideation, lo-fi, mid-fi, hi-fi, or when the product is.
Which is why there are separate teams of user researchers at larger organizations, right? There will be something called rapid testing. There is something in MVP stage, and it needs to be pushed really soon. Then you send it to the rapid testing team, who will just do it quickly. They'll have a very low TAT. However, for exploratory studies, the timelines could be even 2 to 3 months for one specific study. then you tend to go before the roadmap only. Before a problem statement is put into a roadmap, you do the research. That also varies a lot.
Got it. So just matlab, to clarify more, let's say there's a big consumer brand who is launching, let's say, a new feature. For example, they have a core business and now they are building a second business line or something on top of that. They are launching a new sub product or something. In this case, how would this user research team would work at different stages?
Right. So basically, the requirement will come कि okay, we are trying to launch this. These are the questions that we have. Probably they want to know कि who can be the target user base for this, or what are the personas that we should target, and what is the current mental model. Like if there is a feature that they are trying to bring in, which is trying to fix a existing gap. Now it is on a hypothesis or an assumption, right? कि okay, this gap is existing. The user research team needs to test that gap as well. Ki how broad is that gap, and is it worth it also to bring something new entirely? Right. They will do this at the ideation stage. There could be multiple other questions as well. Like if so, the question about if the gap is existing or not, this should also come from the business team only. Ki, okay, we are thinking something, or the product team that we are thinking something. Tell me whether it can work or not. Right, something as big as that. That's where the user research team gets involved. Or if it is in the process that this needs to be done because of our previous interaction or because it has come across in the support tickets, wherever it is, right? So we need to do this. Then we go ahead and kind of build personas. Ki, okay, these are the people that you should be targeting when you are trying to do this, or even user journey maps. Ki, okay, this is the way people are solving this problem currently. This is what they do currently, and these are the existing pain points in that process. These are the things that we need to fix if we want to fix something here. That will happen. Then it goes on to say to the designers, right? Ki, okay, these are the requirements, these are our personas, this is what we need, and you design it. Now there again, say we it's something called design research, right? There the researcher gets involved with the design team entirely. Like even for ideation, say there's a method called card sort, which helps you label and cluster things together. So if you want to build a marketplace, you would want to do something like that first. Ki, okay, how are people clustering their cards, and how do people make sense of things? Like you would see brands and categories on Flipkart and Amazon and other places, right? That's where card sort comes in. Methods as well that you use to give the design team what they want to design, right? Like, inform them about the user behavior currently. Yeah, that's about it. And then once the design is say completed or a prototype is created, then you go ahead and do something like usability testing, where there'll be multiple metrics to judge what is happening and what is not happening. Like you will see the click-through rates, the journey that is being followed, the bounce rates, and like if people are killing that entire flow, what is happening? Are there any confusions? Is there a challenge in noticeability or awareness of this feature? Are they discovering it altogether? These things you will test. You will bring back your insights to the design team, and they'll kind of go ahead and do again iterations or whatever the process is will be followed. And then you finally do it. Then again, after an MVP is pushed, you get involved before phase 1 or phase 2 begins, right? This was something that went on design. Now what is happening in real life? Are there any technical challenges that people are facing? Any usability issues that has happened after development? So these things you will do, and these insights will get included in phase 1, phase 2, whatever it is. I hope that gives you a clarity.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Shivangi, for explaining about the user researcher roles and responsibilities. What are the tools they use, and also with real life examples. It was really helpful. Now, let's say somebody wants to become a user researcher. How can they get their first job or internship?
Right. I think I'll tell you what I did. I think there are multiple ways that people get into this field. Sometimes they get an MS in HCI from outside and they get into the field, and otherwise as well. So what I did was I wanted to have some like hands-on experience before I even tried applying. So I kind of did one course available on Coursera by Google. It's called UX Design Certificate, Professional Certificate, something like that. It's a series of 7 courses that you do. So I did that, and there I got introduced to concepts like, product lifecycle and design thinking and having empathy for your users. And also, I kind of got the exposure of doing one real life research project as well as a part of the course. So it helped me understand how to like transfer my skills as an academic researcher to this field. That's what I did. And then I applied to places like Hureo, Lollipop Design Studios, because I wanted to start from an agency setup because you get to work a lot there. You get exposure to a wide range of products and problem statements as well, and you get to assist like really senior researchers, which is like quite rare in product companies as well. Unless you are working at a huge organization, usually you would be working as a team of 1 or 2 people. So I wanted to start from there. I applied, and I had to do, I remember I had to do an assignment for them. Like they'll usually give you a very small problem statement where you have to do your own research. You can do primary, secondary. Primary is preferred, going and talking to users, and by secondary I mean just online researching, maybe like finding out research papers or any like authorized blogs and all that. So yeah, that's what I did. Sometimes people come from design background, like they have done their bachelor's in what do you call it, industrial design, product design, or even textile design. So they come from those backgrounds as well. Or like I mentioned, psychology. So if you come from clinical psychology, it is highly likely that you would have done one full-fledged qualitative study in your lifetime as a student. So those things also help. You just need to, bank upon the transferable skills that you have. There is nothing called, user research course as such that you can do, or any specialization that you can get as of now. So you kind of have all the transferable skills, and you try to translate it in your CV. That's what I did.
I think the steps is like first understand the transferable skills, understand things like product life cycle, how does design work, the whole product development process, and then like build proof of works like you did like research in primary and secondary research. Got it. I
Oh,
think that's
just
very
to add
clear
on
for
to this, yes, sorry, Manoj, to
yeah.
cut you there. I just totally forgot about this. Also, try to build up a portfolio of your work. Like, just resume doesn't work when you want to enter UX research field. You have to have a portfolio. It could be in a like public domain, or it could be in your just PDF drive as well. That doesn't matter, but you need to show what you have done, right? Like, how have you worked? And if you are like 1 2 years down the line, like if you have at least 1 2 years of experience, then you need to show your impact as well. Like how has your insights improved a product, or how did it change the numbers there? So portfolio is also something very, very necessary.
Got it. And what are the common interview rounds in a user researcher role?
So usually there'll be 2 to 4 rounds, and by in 2 rounds, what will happen is in the first round itself, the the senior researcher or whoever the hiring manager is, they'll get on a call with you, and there'll be most likely 3 sections to that interview. First, and this could be divided into 3 separate conversations as well. So if there are just 2 sessions, then it will happen in first interview, or it will be divided into 3 consecutive sessions. So what will happen is first they'll get to know you, your background, why did you make that switch, and these are very common questions because people don't generally, like I mentioned, they don't come from a specific background here. They are usually from different fields. So they'll ask you about your background, what made you do user research, why do you want to do this, and then the second section would be your portfolio presentation, like the case studies that you have done. And case study also has to be structured, like it has to have that problem statement, the kind of metrics that you were tracking, how did you recruit users for your study, and then how did you go about doing it, what was the process, how did you clean your data, how did you analyze, what is the analysis framework that you used. Then finally some impact you have to show. Okay, these were my insights, these were consumed, and this is the outcome. Maybe it moved, it made a difference in the operations cost, right? Or it maybe brought the adoption rate higher, right? Or it brought the bounce rate lower, whatever it is. You have to tell that. So this will happen in the second section. Third section could be a simulated exercise where they give you like one hypothetical scenario, and you have to tell them about the research design that you will create. Like how will you go about uncovering that problem statement, right? They can give you something very vague like, oh, there's a food business and the new users are dropping off before making payment. So you want to understand what are the reasons they are dropping off. So how will you go about it? What are the methods that you will use? Who are the people that you will talk to? There's a specific user code that you need to talk to here. They don't want to know the insights naturally, but they just want to know this. Alternatively, there could be a case study round where they give you a problem statement, and you have to take maybe 3 days, 4 days, or even a week to do your own research and come up with research insights as well. There you have to do the research design, the whole plan, and then you finally need to deliver the insights also. Okay, these are the things that came up, and how will you let them consume this data? So these things happen, and then finally, like, you will have a culture fit round, usually, which happens in every other interview. So that's about it.
Right. Yeah, I think mostly case study round and more like a whiteboarding round where they might ask questions on the impact, understand the structure or process you follow. Yeah, I think we discussed a lot, but let's say somebody wants to learn about it. So, what are any specific resources, websites, or any books too, or even you can mention about people to follow?
So there is something that I've recently come across. It's called User Research Initiative India. It's by Achyut Sharma, and he's a like industry leader, I would call him. He was in Meesho for a really long time. I think he has been in the industry more than 10 years or something. So I religiously follow him on LinkedIn. Apart from him, there are like multiple industry stalwarts. You might have heard about Nikki Anderson, and there is Teresa Torres. Then Indie Young, absolutely. She has written multiple books. You need to read her books also, things like active listening and how to make sense of qualitative data. She has written beautiful books about them. Then there's this another book called, how am I forgetting that name? It's actually a guidebook to how you can do research if you're a team of one. And that's actually where you can start from. As a one person team, what are the methods that you can use? And you have to keep your TAT also at the lower end to show maximum impact, right? So she has done a beautiful job in creating a very short and crisp guide to breaking into this field and doing research on your own as a team of one. So I am forgetting that name, but I'll share it with you. Like right after this call, I'll do that. That is there. Then again, there are multiple sources like NNG ke articles, Apple and Banana ke articles, and already mentioned. Then Nikki Anderson also runs a platform called User Research Academy. You will get great insights over there as well, great like written blogs and articles, and also some frameworks, basic frameworks like for usability testing. What are the frameworks that she resorts to? It ends up saving a lot of time. Then there are dedicated websites by Loop Panel and Dovetail as well, which acts as a resource guide for you. Like these things also you can refer to. Then again, Dharmesh, he is also he tends to publish a lot of research reports as well of qualitative studies that he has done on his own. So those are also quite interesting to read, and the methodology is something that you can learn from. I would recommend following him. Then Tales of Bharat, D91 Labs ka, you can follow that as well. It's long. I'll give you the entire list only. Other resources may you can use websites like NNG and IDF ka. There is a Interaction Design Foundation ka. There are multiple blogs that you can refer to. I think the list is quite long. I'll just get back to you with the detailed list, and you can probably attach that.
Sure, sure. I'll attach that in description. I think thanks a lot, Shivangi. I think all the questions were answered, and let's say anyone who is just starting or who is exploring to learn about user research, this video will help them a lot. Thanks a lot for your time. If you want to say anything before we close the podcast to the audience.
I mean, it's a great field to be in. It's a very specialized role to have. And it feels great that you can become that bridge between users and business. Like you are that voice who brings user considerations onto the table. It's a huge responsibility as well, I would say. Yeah, go get it. That's all. And I'm always available over at LinkedIn also. Like if anybody has any further questions, they would want to just chat up with me, they can do that as well. Yeah, that's about it.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Manoj. Thanks for having me.